So we start with introductions. My name is Jesse Suen. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Akuity and also the co-creator of the Argo and Kargo project.
Yeah.
Taylor?
And I'm Taylor. I'm a staff software engineer at Acuity. I work on the cargo side of things.
Yeah. So just a little bit about Akuity. Our team created and maintained a popular open source project called Argo, which is a continuous deployment solution for Kubernetes. And we offer a platform for running a more scalable, secure, and easy to manage version of Argo CD and Kargo. So hopefully you are already familiar with Argo, which is the most popular deployment solution for Kubernetes. But why don't we start with a little bit of an introduction about Kargo for those of you who are new to Kargo. So we call Kargo a multi-stage GitOps continuous promotion tool. You could think of it as a layer above Argo CD, and one that coordinates the promotion of your build artifacts, such as your container image, from environment to environment. But it does it in a GitOps focused way. So it offers a few primary benefits. One is this very flexible promotion pipeline. So in Kargo, you model your environments into what we call stages, and each stage is individually defined. So it gives you a ton of flexibility on how the promotion should happen for that stage, like whether it should create PRs or run a different set of tests. Kargo gives you this unified visualization of like where changes are happening. So this rich UI and dashboard, it lets you understand the state of the application across all your environments. So at a glance, you can see, for example, how far back production might be from the latest build. It offers a very intuitive user experience. We have things like drag and drop promotions. Basically, we are trying to hide the complexities of GitOps, configuration management, and trying to not expose those details to end application developers. Uh, Kargo gives you safer and reliable deployments by ensuring promotions happen in a proper sequence with guardrails. Will ensure that things that aren't passing um, your tests and your verification processes won't be allowed to proceed downstream to your later stages. And finally, Kargo has things like running testing and verification. So you can run jobs, you can query metric providers like Datadog, Prometheus to actually verify that your builds are actually passing through your environments. Yeah, so that's a little quick intro of Kargo. And I think it'd be actually useful to just actually see it in action, especially for those who are new to it. So what you're seeing here is the project view of Kargo. And you can see that we have the main view is this pipeline view. It's a view that provides an overview of all your environments, what version of the software is running in each environment. I have a basic 4-stage deploy pipeline, dev, staging, and then 2 production environments, U and US. At the top, this is where your deployable build artifacts are, and which we call freight. And so they're kind of presented from most recent popping up over here. And the older ones will kind of get pushed to the right. So as new artifacts are pushed, such as image, Docker container images or Git commits, they'll start getting populated on the left of this timeline. And then once they show up here, then you can start promoting them into your environment. And then to actually promote, you can actually just take a version of the artifacts that you want, drag it to the stage that you want to promote to. And then you can see what you're about to promote, and then go ahead and proceed with the promotion. So as you can see, my promotion is set up with a bunch of steps, which are the core feature of Kargo, being able to customize what a promotion means for your environment. And today, what we'll be introducing is like a new set of steps that enable the Terraform/OpenTofu use cases that we'll see later. But to start with, I'll show you how this is a typical Kubernetes deployment where I'm practicing GitOps. So I first clone a Git repository. Then I go edit a values file with an image tag. And then I push that commit, and then go look at and then I call an Argo CD sync. So another cool thing about Kargo is we now have integration with a deeper integration with Argo CD, where we can actually, without having to leave the Kargo UI, we can actually see the Argo CD application tree view without having to leave the Kargo UI. Sorry, I think I went to the wrong stage. Okay. All right. So I had just promoted a change. I think it was I went from 83 to 89 into staging. So if we look at the staging environment, or the staging stage, I should say, we can see that Kargo had done a sync to a commit about 2 minutes ago. And if we do look at that commit, you can see that this was a commit Kargo made about 2 minutes ago. Indeed, updating that image tag in that values.yaml for my staging values.yaml from 83 to 89.
So, Jesse, there's a
Yeah.
couple questions I think would be good to ask here that have come through.
Mhm.
The first one is the platform open source like Argo CD? So I'm assuming that's referring to Kargo.
Oh yeah, Kargo itself is open source. Yes. So all of this is all our Kubernetes integrations are are in the open. The Terraform is part of our enterprise offering. So that isn't open source, but so far what I've just shown you is all in the open source.
Yeah, I'd expand that too. It's very much this, all the core functionality you're going to see during most of this, except for the Terraform thing, is all open source. So you're all able to access it, use it however you want, and then we add additional features to help fund the development, basically of the open source through enterprise integrations. And so they're very we try to make sure it's very clearly called out in the documentation as well, so you know exactly which things are enterprise and what aren't. Um, Okay, the next one was our cargo project a similar concept as an Argo CD.
Yeah. So we wanted to use the idea of a project as a unit of tenancy. So under the cover, since Cargo is implemented, like it requires like a is implemented in Kubernetes, we under the covers use namespaces as a product. So there's a one-to-one relationship between a project and a namespace. Um, and something I wish we did with Argo CD, because it makes things like RBAC and stuff like so much better and easier. But the idea is that a project is kind of like your own slice of the cargo pie, so to speak. So within, like, for example, this project, I can have things like I can configure my own like notifications. I can configure my own secrets and config maps. I have my own um, analysis templates. That's another um, feature I'll get into really quickly. But basically, these are all uh, specific to my project. We do have global concepts of this. So if you're an organization that needs like centralized control, and your end users shouldn't be creating any of their own personal stuff, you do have the ability to have centralized secrets, centralized config maps, and um, promotion tasks, and also even cluster analysis templates.
Awesome. Okay, we have some good questions still coming in. These are great questions, everybody. We love the interactivity here. Another one was, they said, silly question. Do the colors on the stages mean anything, or are they just conventions? I'll actually answer that one. So the colors are configurable. There's a set of default ones you can pick from, but you can give it any hex value. And it's just meant to like organize things. So like, for example, this one, we have the prod stages being the same color. And so that way they can show up as being or slightly different colors. I think it's hard to tell when you're having the shared screen, but like then you can tell where everything's at. So we use just the colors as an indicator on the top. You can make them whatever color you want.
Yeah, so it's useful because so right now at a glance I can see that because all my prod stages are color coded red, I can see they're all at 81, and then my green and yellow stages are at 89. There's a point in time where the colors become meaningless because you have so many stages, and you can actually disable this. We actually had a request where there's so many stages that like colors, you can't tell the difference between light blue and very very light blue. So they just said like, can we just turn it off because we have hundreds of stages in our project.
Yeah. Awesome. Now the last question, this one's a fairly simple one too, is the integration with Argo resources, the view that you were showing, part of the Kargo or the Akuity platform?
This view needs our Akuity platform to function. So our version of Argo CD has some components that enable this this view to work in Kargo. So I lied when I said all of what you saw is in the open source. This part isn't in the open source, but one thing, we will still deep link you to the actual underlying Argo CD thing. So you can get to this view, which is, what you already familiar with the Argo CD. You won't have, if you're using the running your own Argo CD, then you'll be missing the this integrated view.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's one last small one that I think would be good to show here. Is there a view that can show, for example, all projects freight versions deployed like to prod US, or like can see everything that's deployed in a specific stage?
Oh, everything that's deployed is well, if I understand the question, I mean, there's only one artifact deployed to a stage unless you're using our multi-warehouse feature, which is another thing we can get into. So for example, I just clicked the staging and I can tell you, um, I'll just actually cover that really quick. This example actually has a list of two artifacts that can pass through this pipeline. So if I look at this staging, I can see that my guestbook image is let me see. Uh Maybe the question is more about history, but I can see that this is the list of freight that went of the guestbook image that went here, but I can also see all the different configuration changes that went through this as well. Um,
You can also see this on the project view. So if you back out just so you can see like where it says features and there's a little arrow in the middle of each stage. So you can click through that arrow and you'll see every single
Oh,
artifact that's deployed in each of those as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
So there's multiple views. You can also see this from the freight side, if I remember correctly. If you click on
Mhm.
the freight, I believe you can see like which things it's yeah, there it says verified in and it shows you what it's actually running in right now. So you can do it, you can slice it different ways depending on what you want to see.
Yeah. Also, maybe this view. No, this. Actually, yeah, this one also showed it, but I'm actually wanting to see the. Let me see if I filter on there. I'm trying to show the image tag, but right now they're showing me the git commit version. So, what I was trying to really quickly go through is that there's an important feature of Cargo. Reason we called this freight and just not artifacts is because freight is actually one or more artifacts that you might potentially deploy as a unit. And this is actually going to be important for the next part of the demo as we talk about the Terraform um, integration. And it's a good segue. So let me show you a warehouse that is actually combining uh, multiple artifacts into a single freight. So it's subtle different. So in this example, you can see that I have two warehouses. What this is saying is like I can actually promote images through my pipeline separately and at a separate clip, like a different cadence than this Git changes. This is just like I'm in here. I'm just promoting like this file from directory to directory. Um, but the difference is here. I have like a features flag file YAML, and I want to promote that maybe every other week because it's we want to sit on a feature flag for about a week and then go to the next environment. For images, we promote this multiple times a day, and so images might go through this very frequently, and then features will go very slowly. So that's using two warehouses going through the same pipeline. The counter example is when I have a single warehouse and it's actually subscribed to three different freight. And so this is saying, as part of my promotion, I am deploying a container image, uh, a file in Git, and then this one is and actually it's a OCI image of a Lambda function. Um, and that so I'll get into this when we get to the Terraform part, but the point of this is showing that all three of these are deployed as a unit. Um, so you're actually combining all three things, and that's why it's called like a freight instead of artifact because there's more than one artifact. All right. I think we should segue to what we are recently announced. Basically, we are now able to run Terraform or more accurately, OpenTofu steps in Kargo. So in addition to deploying and calling sync to Argo CD, Kargo can now invoke OpenTofu actions as part of your deployment process. So why is this important? Well, so we meet a lot of users who, they are on Kubernetes, but they still have quite a bit of non-Kubernetes. I like to always use the example. There's a lot of people who deploy Lambdas. There's another large cohort of people who deploy virtual machines. And so for whatever reason, they just aren't fully able to converge entirely onto Kubernetes, and they still have um, legacy systems, or maybe they don't even call it legacy because that's just the way they want things to work. Um, so And I think probably the most common tool for deploying to those type of environments is Terraform. But a lot of times you also want to consume Terraform outputs in your Kubernetes applications. So example of this is like I am deploying a Lambda, and Lambdas will get a random function URL assigned by AWS at the time of deploy. So if you ever ran like a Terraform plan, you'll see like this known after apply kind of warning that like I won't know the value of this URL until actually like we actually go carry out the plan. I'm sorry, the apply. So this means that people will end up having kind of like this disjoint two-step process of first deploying with Terraform. Once that's fully deployed, they can then manually copy the generated output, paste that into a value file in their Kubernetes manifest. And we wanted a way to make this process unified and seamless and automated, but still practicing infrastructure as code and GitOps. So Kargo in Kargo Enterprise, we're introducing 4 new Terraform related steps. And the names should imply what you might expect. We have a HCL update. You can think of this like a YAML update, but it can deal with hash configuration language files. TF plan, which will capture the output of a tofu plan. So you can, for example, attach that output as part of a pull request that you want to review before you go actually execute the plan. The apply, which will actually perform the apply, and then the output, which will capture outputs of the Terraform state file after you perform the apply. And then this can be then used so that it can feed into things like a YAML update in Kubernetes for your Kubernetes part of the deployment. Okay, so I think we can get to the meat of the Terraform demo. All right, so going back to this example, here we just have a simple 3-stage pipeline, and then the warehouse is the interesting part. I mentioned it's a warehouse that's subscribed to 3 different things. Image, this is just a this is the Kubernetes portion of my app. It's just a container image. I also have a file, a config file that I am promoting, and it's basically just this is a version policy.json file that I'm gonna copy from environment directory to environment directory. So basically I'm promoting this file by copying older or newer versions of it to the stage specific directory. And then this is a Lambda function stored in a OCI repository. So it's basically it's kind of just like a container image, but it's instead of a Docker thing, it's actually I think some Python code that we are going to use Terraform to apply to upload the Lambda. So let's look at the GitOps repository that is going to power everything. So in here, I have my environments directory, which is pretty typical. What's different is I have 2 sections. Like I now have a Kubernetes stuff, which is this is just a value specific environment specific values file. And then I have a Terraform folder, which has my Terraform specific stuff for this environment. And so let's see what else. I think that's all there is to say about this GitOps repo. We can actually just go ahead and kick off a promotion. Let's promote this one, which will take us from I think I'm changing like all the 3 different things as part of this promotion. And so this is a longer list of steps that is happening. What you see is that I am doing 3 config changes in my GitOps repo. I'm doing a YAML update. I'm copying that policy JSON file, and then I'm also doing an HCL update. So let's look at the pull request that actually got created for this. And just because I know the polling can take some time, I'm going to merge this while I talk about this PR. All right. So what Kargo created was a pull request with 3 changes. It updated the values.yaml from version 1 to version 2. It updated the Lambda function tag from 4 to 5, and it restored a different version of the policy JSON to the all of this is in the prod directory. What it also did was it captured the Terraform plan output, so that you can also review what the change would do after I would click merge. And then this is what I was referring to earlier. Like, so yeah, the plan won't know like the new function URL that is gonna deploy or after the apply happens. And so now that it's merged, if we go back, we can see that it had waited for that PR to get merged. It went and actually carried out the apply. And then so we can see now that this app had just synced to a new commit. Sorry, I skipped something. Let me actually show more details about that. Yeah, it actually performed the apply. It captured some outputs of that apply. So what it captured was the new function URL. It then updated the YAML with that new function URL, and then updated the Helm values, pushed that, and then called Argo CD sync. So now let me show you the Argo CD app. So you see that it did sync a minute ago. We can see that the commit that it had synced to, let's go to the files. It got that new function URL that was from the Terraform output. This is just the Terraform state file that for convenience, I just stored in Git, but most people prefer not to store state files in Git. But you can see that I am passing Terraform outputs directly to my Kubernetes app as part of a single deployment. So looking at the pods, we should see my Lambda function URL is indeed updated in the environment variable I set in the Helm chart. And so this is indeed deploy, or my app is now aware of my new Lambda function URL. So so yeah, this is kind of how Kargo is trying to bridge that Terraform and Kubernetes divide, that manual process that a lot of people are kind of struggling with when they're trying to do kind of hybrid target, or I guess we also call multi-environment type of deployments. So this might be a good time to answer any questions.
We have lots of questions.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. They've been great. So I'll start with the Terraform specific ones, and we'll back up to some other more generic cargo ones. So first off, from the Terraform side, we have, does the Terraform state need to be included along with the manifest, or can it be retrieved from a secure location?
Oh yeah, sorry, is it the Terraform save file, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
actual state pulled in, yeah.
We don't care actually. For the demo, like it's just because it's convenient, the state file is stored with the like in the Git repo. But that's actually a black box or opaque to us because we rely on the tool for like whatever backend the tool is configured with. We rely on that fetching and interacting with the actual backend.
Okay.
So if your TF stuff I think is configured with uh instead of I think local or something, I think I forget. It's anyways, yeah, it should just work.
So we'll have to see, like, depending on the state backend and stuff, like what other
Yeah.
kind of integrations we do and things we add in. But essentially, yes, like the this is like the initial release of the feature. So obviously we'll continue adding things in as needed. Next Terraform one is where'd that go? Oh, there's what does the Terraform workflow look like when an apply fails? Like what does the remediation look like for it?
So it's actually could be up to you. So one of the features of cargo promotion steps is that we do have conditional steps, which along with those condition steps, we provide status check functions. So this was actually very inspired and modeled after GitHub Actions. So if you're familiar with GitHub Actions, this should all be very familiar to you. But so let's take an apply, for example, failing. So what you could do is have steps like that occur after the apply that only execute after, or sorry, not after, if we know that the the promotion had failed. And I think there's also, even if you can there's a status check function to see if a specific step had succeeded or failed. So in this example, there is no remediation because I didn't have any like conditionals on if something failed. So, but if I wanted to make my promotion steps a little more robust, I would add additional steps like, oh, if my promotion failed or if the TF apply step failed, then run like this other step. But it is open ended, I guess you could say. It's kind of up to user defined behavior.
Yeah. And it's also good to know, we kind of like glossed over it a little bit, but you have basically verifications that can run that are analysis
Oh
templates
yeah,
or analysis that's right?
yeah. I forgot to cover that in my kind of intro to Kargo. Maybe if we have time, we can get to that after the Terraform questions.
Okay, that I think was the last Terraform question. I think it might be good to do that. And actually, I'll ask another question that's related to it. What because this is one of them, and I know there's other things here. So, what sort of gates can you add to a stage in Cargo for situations where manual approval must happen either from Cargo itself or something external like a webhook? So it's about this like verification, approvals process and
Hmm.
stuff. We didn't really mention that. So I think let's start with the verifications and kind of go over that, and then talk a
Yeah.
little bit about the how like we can have approval steps essentially.
Okay. Um, okay. So actually, that's a good way to circle back to the feature I didn't cover. So so we do have uh analysis template. So if you are familiar with Argo rollouts, um, Kargo basically took the analysis controller portion of rollouts, not the workload, the rollout workload piece, just the analysis template. Because when we built that, I always imagined that analysis templates could have use standalone outside. Like it's useful to run a test like out irrespective of the context of a traffic shaped canary, for example. And it turned out to be very useful. So we now can run analysis templates as part of a what we call verification process in rollouts. And just to be clear, we get this question a lot, which is like, oh, does Cargo replace Argo rollouts? And the answer is no. They operate on very different levels. Like Argo rollouts is at a single workload level, so it's very low level. It's a deployment replacement. Um, um, Cargo is at an application level, so you between app to app, or like your environment, like prod to or dev to staging to prod. Um, and rollouts is focused on like traffic shifting um, and that um, we don't do like we don't Cargo doesn't integrate with like Istio, for example, like Argo rollouts. So they're very different tools. So you would, if you still want to like, we have many people who do use both Cargo and rollouts. All right, but part that we do reuse is the analysis template piece. So what I have here is just like a web test. It's basically uh, I want to query this web API. In this case, it's a Pokemon database. Um, and my success condition is that the Pokemon that I pass in must have a base experience less than 200. Otherwise, I don't, my, my guestbook image is like, is not healthy. Um, so if I were to promote, for example, like this, I only have it configured on this environment. Um, but basically, while we're waiting, let me show you how this is configured. Uh, I is it on this one? Sorry, maybe it's on this one. Oh no, I think it's actually on this. I sorry, I promoted the wrong thing. I It should be on this one. Okay. So here it is. Okay, so this little stanza inside my stage is saying like, hey, after every promotion, I want to do verification. And so called out to this analysis Pokemon XP analysis template, and then I pass it some variables. In this case, I'm passing Pikachu. And then after the promotion, it's going to let's see, did it get to that? Oh yeah, okay. It might have already. Oh no, here it is. All right. It's actually querying the making that web API call and querying it a bunch of times. So this so far it made two measurements. Both were 112, which is under my 200 threshold. And so this is going to pass. It looks like it did pass. And so once it passes, um, this freight is now verified in this stage and made available to be promoted to downstream environment. So the guardrail that Cargo is giving you is that we ensure like a proper process of things aren't going um, like they're being tested or verified as they either automatically flow through your pipeline or even manually. So if this were to fail, um, and I were to try to promote this image to prod, Cargo would block you saying like this was not verified in upstream. Um, so that's the kind of the gates that I think the question was maybe alluding to. The other, aside from that, we recommend people use pull requests, for example, if they're doing GitOps changes to prod in related files in Git.
Yeah, you saw that if you were watching before, you saw the PR stuff that Jesse was doing and waiting for that PR to merge. We also have, I think we might have an example if you can find Jesse. If not, it's fine. You can also do basically like fan out and like a sync point stage that is basically an empty stage that says all of these things must like be done and passing before it can move on
Mm.
to another thing. And so, yeah, I think it's that one. Yeah. So this is an example of like a crazy, a crazier one.
Yeah. So another concept we have is like these kind of these sync points or control flow stages is the technical term that we use. But basically it's like a join point. Um, and you can actually just define in Cargo like I require it to be passing in all my upstreams before it's allowed to go continue further down. Um, so that's another gate. I think longer term we do want to build a some form of approval process directly in Cargo so that pull requests aren't the only way to kind of have approval. By the way, there is actually approval concept, but it's this is more for if you need to bypass let's say you have a hot fix like and like I can't wait for it to get through like all my testing because that takes like days. I just needed my hot fix that I just pushed to get into prod because it's an emergency. You can always manually prove something for uh, a stage. And this is kind of your escape hatch, like if you need to get a hot fix into environment as soon as possible.
Yeah,
Uh,
and there's um those are like some of the gates that you have. The question also asked about a webhook. We don't have like a webhook approval yet, other than manually like calling like the Cargo API to approve something beforehand. So that's something else that could be done, or to trigger a promotion in a specific stage. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse, but that's something we're looking at also like adding some other like approval gates and things down
yeah,
the line that might help that.
yeah. So one of the other noteworthy things is we just added things like Slack integration. Like Slack is probably the most popular, highly requested integration. And Slack approvals with like we would use that ourselves like as in a heartbeat um when if that were made available. Um so that's definitely a goal of ours was like so to be able to just approve from Slack or the Cargo UI if you just want to like visit it to see like the lay of the land before you approve it. But if you're kind of expecting something, just approve it through Slack. Either way would is the goal.
Oh, awesome. Okay, there's another question that was asked a little while ago. Sorry, it took a while to get to it. The question was, does Cargo intend to replace CI/CD pipelines and Argo CD? If so, do you have integration with Azure DevOps? We can actually
Oh,
take this one too. Yeah.
that's an excellent question because the answer is actually no. We intentionally uh, do not want to cover like CI use case. So where Cargo starts is when we detect new build artifacts. And that's also where we believe CI should finish. So I think when CI, in our opinion, CI, its job is to run unit tests um, um, and then push and build artifacts. It doesn't even have to talk to Cargo because Cargo has built up a whole facility for just pulling and monitoring artifact repos. And then so Cargo as it automatically detects new artifacts, that's when it can pick up and even automatically like deploy when new artifacts are detected into your environments. Because these days, this is like a simple, I think 2000s, worldview of what environments look like. But I think nowadays, um, things are starting to look more like this. So our belief is that with the advent of microservices, multi-cloud, um, regional stuff like CI pipelines aren't equipped to handle this. They don't give you the visibility necessary to understand like the state of the world of all your environments. So um, our belief is that there needs to be a dedicated CD tool that is just focused on that.
Yeah, I think it's important to know here, like the reason why I got involved with Cargo is because it's so flexible and it meets that gap for us. Like Argo CD and other GitOps tools are very powerful, but at the end of the day, and I'm not trying to sell them short, they're just reconciliation loops. It's just a glorified, very featureful reconciler. It's hard to get it from the I've created and built something to I've deployed it, and here's all the configuration that goes along with it. So Cargo, the reason why we showed all those features at the beginning too, like that you can assemble how freight gets assembled, all those things, and why we call these stages rather than environments is because of that. We want it to be as flexible as possible. Your GitHub repository, your Git repositories don't have to be in a specific format. Your environments don't have to look a certain way. All you have to do is assemble it the way you want it to look. And we try to give a good rich set of tools for you to develop those things in the way that's possible. So it really isn't like superseding anything, so as much as filling a gap. Okay. We have another small question. Craig had asked, I assume Cargo requires autosync to be disabled on the Argo side. Um,
No, actually, not necessarily. Uh, we can so whether our autosync is on or off, Cargo can still kick off a the sync. So we'll just manually kick off if faster rather than a 3-minute pull interval of Argo CD. If you do have it turned on, and obviously if you have it turned off, like we'll kick off right away.
yeah. Okay, awesome. Next one is we've seen promotions with drag and drop, but can we automate promotions based on metrics or other signals?
Automate promotions based on metrics.
It's a mixed bag, I'd say here. You're not going to be able to signal like I said, if you want to call the Cargo API, you can automate promotions that
Mm,
way. But oftentimes, what we have set up because we use Cargo internally at Akuity as well is we have like our dev environment gets promoted immediately upon discovery of any artifact that's related to it. You can also use inside of Freight. You can use what's called Freight selection criteria. So you can say like I want things above a certain tag or that match a certain regex or
uh,
have a certain value. Um, and when you tie that together with stages can then say, I want to auto promote something as soon as I see it, and everything is given a source. So generally at the beginning of your pipeline, the source is directly from a warehouse, but then down the line, the source is from a previous stage. And we've also recently released a feature where you can say, if this stage gets something, I want it to. So there's a couple automation things there. There's nothing in the like signal based ones that you can do right now. That would kind of fall in like webhook type
Mhm.
stuff. But I would say that like very much you can automate many of these things by saying I'm only selecting certain versions, or I'm selecting things where only the versions match, or there's a whole bunch of things you can use to filter, tweak, set up automation things around that inside of Cargo already.
Yeah. I think you are referring to yeah, this is the freight credit. So basically if you what Taylor's kind of alluding to is you can rely on, for example, convention on um and we make heavy use of this expression library called Expert, which is super powerful. I think even Kubernetes is looking to use it in some of their um, um, YAMLs. But basically, it's a very tight, small expression language that just allows you to evaluate like a small expression to to say true or false. But if you were to um, rely on conventions on like how you're tagging stuff, like you could actually um, say like, okay, I only want to create freight, for example, if I don't know, like two, my front end and my back end have the same tag in this example, but maybe you can even say like, oh, only tags that don't have like pre-release before it. Don't show those as freight.
Okay. Um, we had one more Terraform question pop in too, Jesse. It's how does Terraform output get used in Kubernetes?
Um, we give you kind of the primitive. So um, let's go back to that example. In the way it happened here was that so we did apply is what you think it does, but after an apply is when you care about the outputs. So the TF output step is literally just runs tofu output, and so with Terraform, when after you apply, the state file gets updated, and any outputs that you defined in your Terraform files will be captured on that state file, and so TF output is spitting those out. So I happen to capture the Lambda function URL as that as one of those outputs. Now that I can extract it as an output, I can immediately update YAML in Git um, with that new value. So let's just actually go back to that. So in the demo, you can see that I had two commits during the course of this demo. The first was that pull request that had like either the image tag, the policy, and the Lambda function. But but the second commit was actually this function URL. So it's basically I um I ran the apply and then immediately updated my Kubernetes app to be aware of that new output. So yeah, the whole big thing that we're trying to showcase here is that you can coordinate um, Kubernetes and Terraform now more seamlessly into a single process.
Okay, great. Well, we're coming up on time. We have a bunch of really good questions still remaining that we won't be able to get to. A lot of them are like very specific things like how does freight detection work and polling intervals and like RBAC setups and other things. So we probably should just get into how people can reach out, get involved with the community, and get kind of more detailed answers to these questions because they're good ones. And I love seeing them. So I'll probably go to that, Jesse, and give them some ideas of
Yeah.
where they can go next.
Yeah, and then just really quick, like so this is kind of like setting out what kind of the longer term vision. Actually, a lot of most of what you see on the screen is already implemented. I think this bottom quadrant right here is what we're looking to look to start on next. But our vision of Kargo is to become in this universal promotion layer, taking the principles of GitOps and infrastructure code and extending them beyond Kubernetes, so you can apply that process to lambdas, virtual machines, or any other kind of systems that you deliver to. So being able to also integrate with like your internal tools or run your own custom logic is important. So containerized steps is on the roadmap. There's a lot of requests for Ansible for those legacy virtual machine use cases, but yeah, this is the kind of where we see Kargo heading in the future.